Welcome to the Future of Payroll and Workforce Management Insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com, where I am executive community leader of Future of Payroll and do a few other things. But enough about me. My guest today is Allison DeTitto. Did I pronounce that right,
Yep.
Allison? Wonderful. Okay. Allison is Senior Manager of HR Technology Programs at Elastic. It's a really interesting company. And this episode is going to be really interesting too. But before we get into that, could you share with our audience just, what drew you to the human capital management space, HR technology? What gets you fired up and going day to day when it comes to the world of work?
Yeah, happy to share, and thanks for having me. So my early days of my career were focused on implementing projects at companies that often had an impact on people, process, and technology, and my role was to support it from an instructional design and change management perspective. And so almost every type of work I was doing involved some level of technology. And so that's what my introduction looked like. And what I realized that I wanted to continue more into that field was just I think what's inherent in me is being a continuous learner. I love learning new things. I love anything but the monotony of my day. So, what technology has offered me is just continuous growth and learning new things. And what I appreciate about an HR technology too is it has that people focus, of course. And it's also allowed me to continue to grow alongside the technology. So even as recent as learning about agentic AI, because I have responsibilities in HR technology, I get to learn all about what agentic AI is.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time to be in this space. Let me tell you, agentic AI just blows my mind, and we might talk a little bit about this today because we are going to talk about AI a little bit. When was the last time you were on an HCM podcast and talked about AI? Probably 5 minutes ago. But anyway, um, just to kind of set the stage, I have a few things written down. I'm going to share with the audience here. So this is kind of an interesting mini case study looking into the options that employers have today around enhancing and modernizing employee self-service, which is kind of a table stakes thing. It's become table stakes. ESS has evolved so much in the past 10 to 15 years. And artificial intelligence is at the center of this story. Um, so, so so your employer, Elastic, you folks deployed ServiceNow, which many of our listeners and viewers might know about. You deployed ServiceNow for ESS about a year and a half ago to just improve the usefulness of your HRIS and this sort of thing. And then in parallel, you guys, if I'm getting this right, you developed a homegrown ChatGPT-style sort of large language model generative AI to further enhance responsiveness to employees' queries about their employment. So am I kind of getting the lay of the land right here?
Yeah, yep. So we launched ServiceNow. We call it Help at Elastic, internally at Elastic, and was comprised when we launched with knowledge management, case management, and the employee experience portal. And then what you're describing, the homegrown system we call Elastic GPT. It's actually a product that we offer to our customers, and wanting to drink our own champagne, started to bring that experience internal to our company as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit. And by the way, that's great to sort of drink your own champagne. I've heard eat our own dog food, but I like drink our own champagne much more. Yeah, that's
More fun.
um, maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what led Elastic first, originally to source and deploy ServiceNow.
Absolutely. So we have a company goal that translates down to HR goals on scaling our company. And what that means from an HR perspective is our service delivery. So, helping people self serve, as you mentioned, so that we don't have over reliance on our COEs, our HR ops teams for answering questions that what we call our elasticians, our employees, can serve on their own. So, before we launched, we're still a young company. We just turned 15. So, this is a couple years ago. We determined that we were not being scalable in the sense of self-service or helping our elasticians and finding content most effectively or getting the answers that they needed. So current state at that time was if I had a question and I wanted to seek out information, I didn't know if I should go to the wiki, which is a tool that we use on Confluence still today. Do I go to a Google Drive? How do I hunt this information down? So there's all these disparate tools of where content lives. And in addition to that, where the content lived wasn't effectively managed there as well. So we didn't have any practices on monitoring content, archiving old content, refreshing it, making sure that it was accurate for our elasticians, which of course is problematic. And then in addition to that, if someone really did need help or need to reach out to a team, that also is all over the place. So people might reach out via Slack channels. So we had some Slack channels dedicated by team. Another one was email aliases, and you had to know the email alias for the right team to ask the right question to the right person. So ServiceNow was huge for us because we centralized those two experiences into one, where one, our content is now living on one platform and governed in a way where we are ensuring that level of accuracy and relevance for our elasticians. So they are able to come in, get their needs met through self-service, through the content. But if they do need more help, it's also the place where they get help. And they don't have to guess not only where to go, they don't even have to worry about what team supports it. They just go in, perform a search, and ideally, we're getting also case deflection through the knowledge content that we have living in ServiceNow. So it kind of gives elasticians some pause on, do I have to open a case for this, or can I deflect that case by just self-serving? And so that's also what's allowing HR to scale alongside of our organization by deflecting the cases and having agents focus more on those moments that matter in critical cases.
That's interesting. Must be some productivity gains you've you've sort of realized from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one other gain that we had in moving over was access to metrics. So, because we had disparate systems, we didn't really know what our baseline was as far as seeing like the before and after. But given some estimations, we estimate about a 50% case deflection having launched ServiceNow.
Oh, wow, that's great. And so you're saving a lot of time for the HR department.
Yeah, for the back end and the front end. So, elasticians, a lot of people, I think Gartner said in a recent report, no fewer than 68% of people want to self-serve. They want to be able to go in and just get a quick answer, right? They're not necessarily looking for a human intervention and support along the way. So not only is it helping our backend users and support teams, but also elasticians and just getting what they needed in the first place most efficiently.
By the way, I just have to say, elasticians, that is such a great name for your staff. I love
Oh,
it. I love it. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, now you've had that success with ServiceNow. You sort of saw that and it really moved the needle for you folks. And then you you still as a company you sort of deployed or developed a homegrown AI system to supplement or I think supplement's probably the right word. ServiceNow. How has that been? So why did you do that? A, and how has that been a benefit to the HR technology stack?
Sure. So when we deployed Elastic GPT internally, one is we wanted to be customer zero for our own product. And with that, there was some wins in launching it because what Elastic GPT does is it ingests content from ServiceNow or Help at Elastic and our wiki. So even though we made a big shift in moving our HR content into ServiceNow, there's still a lot of support teams that have content living on wiki and it hasn't fully retired yet. So Elastic GPT gave us an avenue for elasticians to go one place to search for information, still not having to guess, do I go to Wiki for that or do I go to ServiceNow for that? And then in recent months, we actually explored launching a new ServiceNow portal that we're calling The Source, that's acting essentially as our internal intranet. Because we don't have an intranet, our wiki was also acting as our intranet.
Okay.
And with that, so we have two portals, but with the Source portal, we actually removed the ServiceNow search and brought in Elastic GPT.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's the search experience you get through ServiceNow, but through that portal. So it's still, yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So the Elastic AI, already forget what was the name of the Elastic AI?
Elastic GPT.
The Elastic GPT, right, right. Makes sense. So that is living on the ServiceNow platform. It's called the platform. It's living there, but it is acting as the search tool for or the LLM that's searching the wiki, which is lives sort of it's apart from the ServiceNow.
Yeah, yeah. So the
Okay.
wiki's sitting on Confluence, ServiceNow, Help at Elastic Content. It's searching both of those avenues, but from one portal now. So if
What
people are coming in through the intranet, they can still perform a search and take the guesswork out of where the source is coming from.
Oh, interesting, interesting. Would you say Elastic GPT is sort of learning from ServiceNow, or is it mostly learning from the wiki or obviously it's learning from queries inbound from ServiceNow. Is it learning in any other ways from ServiceNow?
That's a great question. Not that I'm aware of. So we have a separate team that's managing Elastic GPT. We are regularly chatting too about how the experience is coming together. We're thinking of our tech ecosystem as a whole. But there are still some things we need to iron out to fully adopt the Elastic GPT search into Help at Elastic, our other portal, because
Mm.
we're still in our evolution and maturity of Elastic GPT internally. And there are some facets that it doesn't pick up from Help at Elastic. So if I could give an example, if I wanted to open a case to regarding my pay stub, I will not be able to do that through Elastic GPT. So that's a limitation that GPT has for us today. And that's why in Help at Elastic, we did not swap out our search as of yet, at least, because we need people to still find where those request forms are. So that's where we chose to adopt it on the source portal, but not the Help at Elastic one.
This is really interesting. You know, you and I spoke in the green room the other day, and this is this is just a podcast. We're not a late night talk show, but we do have a green room, right? And we talked about this, and it was interesting then. But now all these things are coming to mind that hadn't in our original conversations, and I'm realizing how deeply down the rabbit hole we can go here and
Yeah.
what the implications are. You started to talk that you shared one pro versus con of of expanding. I think what I'm inferring of expanding the homegrown system, the Elastic GPT versus going deeper with ServiceNow. You shared one. What are some of the other pros and cons of going one way versus the other? Because for a lot of organizations, just to kind of set the stage a little bit here, for a lot of organizations, they have this ability, maybe not to the extent that Elastic does, because this is a lot of what Elastic does anyway, right? But at least theoretically, a lot of organizations out there, they could, if they have just the right sort of, crack sort of IT team, right? They could develop a homegrown AI system that could do a lot of the things that a solution like ServiceNow or let's not even talk just about tracking tickets, but all
Mhm.
sorts of other things having to do with HR. So, what are the pros and cons of staying with your own solution versus going deeper with ServiceNow? Not that you're going to make a decision one way fully or the other, right? It's probably going to be a blend, right?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely a blend. Each product's kind of serving its own bread and butter, so to speak. So Elastic GPT, where we see a lot of value in that is, again, it's taking more of that guesswork out, where we are sustaining tools and content in disparate platforms and aggregating that in a way so it simplifies where to go to perform a search, where it still is just not where we need it to be to bring it into our Help at Elastic ServiceNow platform are some of the limitations in pulling in other points and data sources. So, for instance, ServiceNow has a lot of great AI capabilities under their Now Assist product that helps agents out in the flow of work. So as they're working on a case, they can, if they get a transferred case to them, they could click on a chat summarization to see exactly all the history of the chat that's gone on between the prior agent and our elastician. So there's some things that are just much more in the flow of work operationally that we can gain benefit from much more near term with just turning it on with ServiceNow versus plugging it into our own roadmap. So we're a search AI company. It is our bread and butter. And of course, it's a capability we want to adopt as much as we can internally, but its intent isn't necessarily to replace ServiceNow or do all the things that ServiceNow does.
Mhm.
So I fully believe that there's a place in multiple tools and platforms bringing in AI and knowing where I think what's truly important is knowing the roadmap of where ServiceNow is headed with AI among the other tools. So whether or not it's your own homegrown system or other platforms, because making the decision today on like, oh, I would love to get this today from this platform, and maybe I need to buy something new versus, oh, but this is on the ServiceNow platform and they're going to turn that on in the next release in 6 months. So you really have to be forward thinking and knowing the business value of turning what on in what time frame.
Yeah, yeah, it's very rarely sort of a very simple either or question. As with so many other decisions regarding the HR technology stack, you end up with multiple systems doing different things and hopefully integrated well. Um, but keeping that in mind, it's always fun to think about the future, right? Just to kind of predict or just hypothesize what's going to happen in the future. I mean, I'm thinking back to, 10, 15 years ago. And my timing might be a little bit off, but and a lot of companies still do. They have homegrown systems for all sorts of sort of the conventional domains of HCM, whether it's payroll or time and attendance scheduling. There are all sorts of different homegrown systems, and it was often there'll be a compelling reason for an organization to say, hey, let's dispense with our homegrown system and deploy this best of breed solution from an HCM technology vendor, right? And so with that in mind, right, we have this sort of new situation now that it seems like a lot more organizations, and again, Elastic is in a position maybe more so than other organizations to really go deep with this. But again, any organization could potentially hire an IT team that could develop a homegrown AI system, to AI built or powered system to handle anything in HR technology related. Let's forget about the rest of the enterprise stack, right?
Yeah.
Do you see this sort of, and there's no right or wrong answer here, but do you see this sort of, taking the same sort of route where eventually there will be providers of AI powered, like truly AI powered solutions for HR, and it'll make sense for employers that have deployed their own homegrown AI solutions to bring in this outside AI powered solution instead, or to use it in. I mean, we're already using them in parallel. Where do you see that going?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a couple things come to mind. So it's hard to believe that it won't go in that direction where companies will start exploring that. I think we're so early in the maturity of how AI is getting amplified and what we're doing in that space where it might be hard to see that possibility today. There's a lot of still upskilling that we need to do internally within our organizations to understand what AI is, how to fully take advantage of it. But I think the same way, like the internet was like novel back in the day. It's like, okay, is that going to scale one day? Probably. You're probably all going
Yeah.
to a lot of different ways. So
Gee,
it's
you
hard
think?
to, yeah, let's hope. So same with AI. It's like it feels early, it feels new. Can we potentially explore doing this on our own? It might feel scary, but it's like everything was probably scary at one point. I think it'll all come down to, though, what we are very familiar with, which is the build versus buy decision making. So today that might look different than it does 5 years from now, as far as what talent we have in house and what it truly means to build versus buy. But a lot of the decisions that go into those decisions today, pre AI even, I think it'll be the same type of decision making. So is this where we want to invest? Do we want time to value to be maybe faster? Do we want to own this capability in house or rely on a trusted external partner to make sure that they're providing the releases in their technology that we can just take advantage of it? So I think it's just going to be the same type of decision making we make on build versus buy pre AI.
It's a fascinating question, and I think you hit a lot of good points there. Think about your internet analogy there, right? I think it was the DARPA grant way back in the late 60s that established the sort of the ancient original, internet, which was just sending, emails or messages to each other, right? And I was thinking as you were talking, I was thinking, I wonder if somebody in DARPA envisioned, social media and all this stuff back then. Maybe there was some brilliant mind there that maybe had that vision, but for the vast majority of us, I don't think we can really predict, or we don't know where this is going to go. So that's the other thing is, we're looking at it from today's vantage point, but we don't know where it's going to go. But it is exciting to think about. Allison, thank you so much for being a guest on this episode of the podcast. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.